Hey everybody, welcome to the Ryan and Log Fantasy Show. As always, I am Ryan.
And I'm Log, apparently.
That is going to be your short form name for this podcast series. So, welcome to episode 1 of the fantasy show that we are just starting up now because both of us just really love fantasy football and we just want to talk about it all the time.
Yep, gotta spread the knowledge, you know?
Spread the knowledge that we might or might not have.
Yeah.
So, we started this because we are in a keeper fantasy league, and it is half-point PPR, and we just kind of really wanted to start a podcast, so we decided to do it. And there's 12 teams in our league.
Yep, 12-team, half-point PPR.
3 keepers, and Logan is the 3-time defending champion, and I am coming off a finals loss to said Logan. And you know
Real
what?
rough for you.
Yeah, it did not end well for me. So we're hoping that we can spread some knowledge and maybe some joy to people out there for fantasy football. So we're going to start off this week we're going to start off with some waiver wire guys that we may suggest to pick up, or maybe we've already picked up in our league that we think are probably going to do well or at least get you through the week. And Logan, who do you like at quarterback this week?
Quarterback, I think there's a few guys. Teddy Bridgewater's a good start. He's playing, this is a Thursday, so he's playing tonight against Atlanta. That's a real solid streamer. Carson Wentz against Dallas is a really nice pickup. Also, if it's really deep, I could look at Jimmy Garoppolo playing Seattle. Seattle, their defense is awful, so...
I like all of those. I also would throw in Joe Burrow against Tennessee, because that Tennessee defense, it may scare some people, but Joe Burrow just came off an 34-point fantasy week against the Cleveland Brown defense, which is not really a good metric to go up against, but Tennessee is beatable. They haven't really stopped a whole lot of people this year, and Joe Burrow's finally finding his groove with Cincinnati. So if he's available and you're desperate, I would definitely recommend Joe Burrow.
Oh yeah, I like that one a lot. He's got a lot of weapons. He's been great. That Tennessee defense is beatable. Can't go wrong there.
I would even almost recommend, if you're really, really desperate, I think Derek Carr against Cleveland. He's thrown 2 touchdown passes in his last few games. I'm trying to think here. And his last, in almost every game except week 1, he has at least 2 touchdown passes. So that is something that you're gonna get out of Derek Carr. So it's nothing like, he's not really gonna really boom for you, but if you're just kind of looking for some guy to put up points, I think Derek Carr is a really good option this week.
Yeah, I just watched the weather reports with that one, because I think I've seen something like 25-mile-an-hour winds, so...
It's in the dome.
It's in Cleveland.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
my apologies.
If it is bad weather, you might want to pivot to someone else, but if it's good weather, Carr and honestly even Baker Mayfield are pretty passable starts.
Yeah, that is definitely something to look forward to. Sticking with waiver wires, is there anybody at the running back position that you really think you could pick up?
Running backs this week are so... you kind of got to just take your shot. It's all injury-based. You got Tevin Coleman, JaMychal Hasty for the 49ers. And then for Seattle, you've got Carlos Hyde and DJ Dallas. So you're kind of just betting on who's healthy, who's not, and you kind of got to move from there at the big guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think beyond them, the only other guy that comes to mind is LaMichael Pirine, if he's still available. Jets starter, which isn't great, but at the same time, 70% of snaps. Kansas City's not a terrible matchup, especially since he'll be the pass catcher. You could do worse if you're desperate.
If you're desperate, yeah, absolutely. There are other guys that you would not be happy to have, but yeah, the running back position, especially with our league, it is something that is very... There's nothing left.
Yeah, especially this week, it's all based off of injuries. If you can find someone, hope for the best. But
okay, so yeah, we're back. No, why would I say that? I'm an idiot. Don't worry about me. So, sticking with I know the wide receiver position this year for the waiver wire is typically where you live, because running backs, you got to hope a lot for injuries and whatnot, but the wide receiver at the waiver wire, it's, at least for me this season, it has gone exceptionally well.
Oh yeah, you've done well.
So is there any guys there that are really, really interesting?
Brandon Ayuk is probably not there, but if he is, he would be top of the list. Deebo Samuel injured, he's coming off a 100-yard game. I think you can fire him up, especially against Seattle. Like, that's a great play this week.
I think two guys to really look at this week, at least for me, are Donovan Peoples-Jones. With Odell being out for the season, it's a very risky play. There's nothing that's really going to set you apart that maybe it's going to work out, but he got a touchdown last game. Who knows with that Cleveland offense that's going to come week to week. So I think if you really want to take a shot, Peoples-Jones is something to look at. Another one is Darnell Mooney, because Allen Robinson today, as of today, which is October 29th, Allen Robinson is still in concussion protocol and not looking great to play on Sunday. So they're going to be playing the New Orleans defense, which has been beatable all season, and Darnell Mooney has been targeted deep by Nick Foles a ton. So I think if Robinson can't go, Mooney should be picked up, because I have Robinson, and I'm telling you, if Robinson cannot go, I will considerably look at picking up Mooney.
Yeah, he's looked great this year. Like, the volume hasn't quite been there, but he's looked really good. So if Robinson is out, that is actually a low-key, like, passable play. Like, that is not too bad.
Yeah. And one more guy, like, I think you have to kind of take a look at Traquan Smith with the New Orleans Saints, because there's no Emmanuel Sanders due to COVID. Michael Thomas is still up in the air, right? We don't know what's going to happen with him. So if you're like, I think Traquan Smith is definitely a flex player that you could probably have with some upside. No guarantee with him.
I think even Kendrick Bourne with San Fran. Like, if you can't get Ayuk, Bourne is passable. He's actually a pretty solid wide receiver. Again, they're playing Seattle, so there's going to be passing game work. Like, it's going to be there. He's been getting 5-6 targets a game. If you're desperate for a play, I don't see why you can't throw him in there and hope for the best.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now moving on to segment number 2 are the players that we like this week. The Boom Babies. That is... I'm only saying this is because Logan's team name is the Dingo Babies.
The Dingo Babies.
So I feel like that is somewhat appropriate, but I will not change that. I'll just go to likes of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll change.
We're just going to talk through a few guys here that we think have a chance to really go off this week.
Really go off. So, a guy for me at the quarterback position I'm going to start off with is Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz playing against that terrible Dallas team. Carson Wentz has actually been fantasy player number 10 on the season with how terrible that Eagles team is. Carson Wentz, he has his moments, but he has been very good at least the last 2 weeks. Even like against Baltimore, he had his highest point total of the year. So going up against Dallas is, I think, something that he's going to have a really good game.
Oh yeah, he's gonna smash. That Dallas defense is an embarrassment.
Well, and also with Dallas not having a quarterback, really, they're gonna start their 7th round pick. Like, they're probably gonna have the ball a ton because the Dallas offense isn't gonna be able to do anything.
Yeah, I think Carson Wentz is gonna crush it this week. I mean, for me, it's one of the guys you brought up on waivers. It's Joe Burrow against the Titans. Like, I love the pass catchers this week. I love that whole Cincinnati offense. Tennessee's been bad, but they've been really good on offense. So it's going to be a high-scoring game, and the Bengals are going to be coming from behind. That's a perfect recipe for Joe Burrow to just absolutely go off.
Absolutely. Now, there is another guy in that same game. I would, if you have him, Travis Fulgham, you have to start. He's had 4 games with at least 10-plus targets. I believe, I might be wrong on that, but it's at least 3 games with 10-plus targets. And he's been Carson Wentz's number 1 option with no Dallas Goedert, no Zach Ertz, no Deshaun Jackson, or any of like their top receivers. Travis Fulgham has emerged as the number 1 guy, and like the volume's there again against that Dallas defense. Like, he could easily have like 100 yards and a touchdown on Sunday night.
Oh yeah, for sure. Again, the Dallas defense is embarrassing. So anyone you could start against Dallas is a great start.
Dallas is just, it's one of those teams where it's like Atlanta this year. As a Falcon fan, it's sad to say, but when you see anybody going against Dallas or Atlanta or one of those teams, you're like, I really want to start anybody in those offenses against that team because they're going to score a lot of points.
Yep, and that brings me to my favorite wide receivers. I'm going to go with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. You can fire up those Panthers wide receivers. They're going to, the Falcons can't stop anybody. So
I don't know how much value, Logan, this is going to have when this episode will air on Friday. But
Okay.
again, you know what? If you were magically hearing this in the future and you heard this before the game started, then absolutely fire up Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, because Logan is absolutely right. My Falcons secondary is the trash bin of the NFL. So they will go off, and Teddy he'll find them the ball.
Yeah.
And to be honest, with no Christian McCaffrey, Mike Davis has been good, but the targets are going to be there.
Yeah, and he came back to earth last week. Like, he'd been killing it, and he kind of came back to more what we'd expect him to be last week, which really ups the ceiling of those pass catchers.
And it looks like the Falcons' run defense has been a little bit better as of late. They haven't really allowed a runner to really destroy them. It's all been through the air, so I wouldn't expect Mike Davis to do it for you. I would expect Robbie and DJ to really get it done.
Yeah, one other name to be more helpful for Sunday is Cole Beasley against the Patriots.
You're telling somebody to catch the Beasles?
I am. He's been, I believe it's back-to-back 100-yard games. I'm not sure if John Brown's going to go, but the Patriots are beatable in the slot. And again, I think the Bills are going to want to make a statement. They're going to want to move the ball, and they do that through the air. So I think Cole Beasley's a solid flex play this week.
Absolutely. So now to a point I want to make is because earlier this season in round 2, I drafted Kenyon Drake with the thought of him being an unbelievable fantasy option, and unfortunately it's just one of those things where it didn't work out. Kenyon Drake didn't really do anything this year to really be, oh, this is amazing, other than the Dallas game. So, Logan, is there anybody that you think it's time to quit on, that you think if you have, it should be time to either jump ship or trade, or just maybe even drop in some scenarios?
I mean, I think there's two big ones for me. Cam Newton, if you're still hoping for him to turn around, it's not going to happen. Like, I would take my chance with any of those waiver wire guys we brought up over Cam Newton this week. But then I think Mike Evans. Like, I think hold him this week. No Chris Godwin, no Antonio Brown. He's probably going to put up a huge week, but then I would be trying hard to trade him after that because the target share is going down, and when Godwin's been healthy, Mike Evans has been bad. So
I totally agree. And with Antonio Brown going into that system, it's going to be, and Rob Gronkowski in there as well, there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. And even even last season, it was either a Godwin game or it was a Mike Evans game. And now that you add two other really reliable options for Brady to throw the ball to, if you can jump ship from almost, I think, anybody in that Tampa Bay offense and get anything of value, I think you should. I'm not saying that if you have a Godwin that you should keep them. I don't trust any of those guys to be very reliable fantasy options. If you have them and they're in your flex, I love them in your flex because who knows. But if they're your number 1 or number 2 wide receivers, I think you got to jump ship on them too.
yeah, they all have week-to-week ceiling, but they also all have the chance to drop you a 0 on any given week. So it's just very risky plays.
Another player, as to mention about Kenyon Drake, if you have a chance to... If Chase Edmonds is still in the waiver wire, I don't know what you're doing. You have to. I think you should.
Yeah.
You should probably pick him up immediately. But if someone else has him, it's going to be difficult. But I think if you can try to trade for Chase Edmonds, because the fact like Kenyon Drake's going to come back. But what I think is, when Drake comes back, I honestly think Chase Edmonds might have that job because he's been almost outperforming Drake all season anyway. When he has the touches, he's their obvious receiving back. And he can do the load when he's running. So I think even when Drake gets back, he might not have a job to come back to.
I mean, Kingsbury's proven he's not afraid to switch it up at running back. Like last year, David Johnson got hurt. They traded for Drake, and he took the job. So to see Edmonds do the same thing this year would not be shocking.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that if you have him, you're loving life because he's going to have a couple weeks of awesome production. But I still think Chase Edmonds is probably the guy for the rest of the year, depending on how he does in these next few games. If he is a beast and just runs all over everybody he plays, then I think you got a stud.
I mean, worst case scenario, it goes back to what he is, which was a flex play. Like, he wasn't guaranteed anything, but he's a guy you could always start, and you weren't getting a 0 from him. He's getting pass catching work. So worst case scenario, you get a few stud weeks, and then he goes back to being startable.
So now I gotta ask you, this is going to be very personal for Logan, because Logan owns Tyler Lockett in our league, and Tyler Lockett put up in half point 45 fantasy points, which is just out of this world production.
Yes.
And other than that, he has a few other games over double-digit fantasy points, but Do you trust Tyler Lockett in that Seattle offense to be a consistent? He's not going to get 45 points every game, but can you trust Tyler Lockett to at least be, be what is the word I'm trying to look, consistent with DK Metcalf, because DK Metcalf had no work really on Sunday.
I have no problem trusting Tyler Lockett. Like, you look at it, he had those 2 bad games where he had 4 targets, 5 targets. That was against Miami and Minnesota. Those were games, I mean, they were just kind of weird games. Miami, they were winning, I think, the whole time. Minnesota, they were coming back, but that was a DK Metcalf game. Other than that, you're looking at, come back here. 8 targets, 13 targets, and 20 targets. If Tyler Lockett's getting 8 targets from Russell Wilson, he's going to be great. Like, if he could get that every week, he will be great.
Absolutely.
Plus, with the ceiling, I think he's a great one. I mean, if you can have him as your wide receiver 2, you can't do any better. I'm perfectly fine with him as my wide receiver 1.
Mm-hmm. That, as wide receiver 1, I totally get that. I think Seattle's offense is one of the offenses this year where if you have anybody in that offense, if you have DK, if you have Lockett, if you even have Carson, praying for his health, if you have Carson, then you're really liking it because that team's going to score a lot of points and there's lots to go around.
Well, and with how bad their defense is, they're going to have to score every single game. Like, it's not like you're going to get games scripted out because...
This Seattle team reminds me of the Falcons of the past, or even the current Falcons, because the Falcons have to throw the ball all the time to stay in it. And the thing that's good with Seattle is Seattle's actually a good team. So when they can score, they can score. Russell Wilson can get it done.
Russell Wilson, especially with the deep ball, he throws the best deep ball in the league. And I say that as a Chiefs fan. Like, his deep ball is unmatched. So anybody like Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, even like a David Moore, like all those guys, they can score a 70-yard touchdown at any moment. Like, it's fun to watch.
Now, is there a certain game on the schedule this week that you are saying is the fantasy game of the week, where you think there's going to be a lot of guys getting a lot of production, that if you can have any major guy on either side, that you're going to have a good week regardless?
I think there's 2. I'm just going to say the one, but it'll be Titans-Bengals for me. Like, those 2 teams, I mean, you can fire up A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry for the Titans. I think you can even start Corey Davis. If Jonnu Smith's healthy, I'm actually not sure about that, but if Jonnu Smith's healthy, you can start him too, and everyone on the Bengals side, all 3 wide receivers and Joe Burrow, whether it's Joe Mixon or Gio Bernard, they're all startable.
And you said you had 2. Like, do you want to say your other one?
My second one will be the game tonight, the Falcons and Panthers. Like, with the Falcons, you got Todd Gurley, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan. On the Panthers side, you're looking at DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Teddy Bridgewater, Mike Davis. Like, I think all those guys are going to be great plays.
Mm-hmm. See, my pick would be, because this game actually has a lot of significance for my fantasy week, is the Vikings-Packers. Because Vikings-Packers already this season saw every player, I believe, like if you had Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, Devontae Adams, or Adam Thielen, you almost got 20 fantasy points out of every single player that I just mentioned. And neither of those defenses are really dominant, and those offenses, I would trust the Packers offense more, but the Vikings offense can show that it can get it done. So, and especially a divisional game, this is going to be, I think, a really high-scoring game. It's going to be amazing, especially if you have the 4 major guys I just listed. Even if you have a guy like Justin Jefferson or even a Jamal Williams or Madison, because Jones and Cook have missed time and they're questionable still, that they even might get work. So if you're desperate for a flex play, I think that game is really going to do well for a lot of fantasy reasons.
Yeah, both those teams kind of match up well against the other's weakness. Like, the Vikings can't stop anything, so obviously the Packers offense is good, but then the Packers can't stop a running back, and that's all the Vikings want to do. They want to run. Mm-hmm. So it's a great matchup that's going to put up a lot of points.
So even if you have Madison this week with Cook looking to play, I would think if you really need to have a flex option, I think you could start Madison, because it looks that they want to be conservative and they're saying that, well, Dalvin Cook is not a pitch count or he's not on a run count. But he's coming off, I think, 2 or 3 weeks missed, that they're not gonna really put him into heavy work again, I don't think. So I think Madison's gonna get a few touches at least, and he's gonna have some valuable work, maybe in the red zone.
Yeah, especially like with injuries and bye weeks and everything. If you're desperate, Madison's a perfectly fine play. Like, he doesn't have a great floor. Like, he could give you a 0, but at the same time, if he gets worked in, again, like, the Packers can't stop a running back, so he's gonna smash if he gets work.
Yep. Absolutely.
This is some great content now.
This is where it gets real interesting, because you got to really think about what we're doing here. But I guess we'll run over our league a little bit because we got some time, and might as well get you guys a little bit about what our teams look like. So Logan, would you go over the run through of the Dingo Babies?
Okay, yep, I got Justin Herbert at QB, which I'm pretty happy with. Wide receiver, I got Robbie Anderson, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd, Travis Fulgham, and I just picked up Jalen Reagor as a flyer. Running back, I got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor, Miles Sanders, and I got a few just like bench guys: Justin Jackson, Latavius Murray, LaMichael Pirine, and JaMychal Hasty, and then starting Jimmy Grandpa at tight end.
Jimmy Grandpa. This is the one thing that we do. We watch football every Sunday together, and you came up with the Jimmy Grandpa name.
I can't take credit for that. That was the fantasy footballers.
Okay, we'll give a shout out to the fantasy footballers. But when Logan said it was the first time I heard it, and it was hilarious. So it was a great nickname.
If you watch him play, it really shows.
It really does show. Old man Jimmy he's definitely a reliable guy, but the nickname is even better.
Yeah.
So to run through my team, I am Adams and Eve, and I started off the season with Dak Prescott, and as a lot of people know, he broke his leg pretty bad.
Yeah, that was gross.
So having him gone really hurt my team because he was the X factor really for me. But I just made a deal to acquire Ryan Tannehill, so I feel like he's a good start for me. And other than Logan, I have a different strategy. He went really running back heavy. I am very wide receiver heavy. I have Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Preston Williams on my bench. And then for my running backs, I got Myles Gaskin and James Robinson, both waiver wire guys that have worked out perfectly for me. I got Chris Carson this year. I traded Kenyon Drake early because I didn't trust him, and it paid off for me. So I got a reliable back in Chris Carson.
Yep, that's looking great right now.
James Robinson, and then I also have Carlos Hyde and DJ Dallas because I just want to start this week at running back because I don't know who's starting this week.
Just anybody.
And then as my tight end, I got my boy Hayden Hurst, which he has really let me down and really made me happy. So he's just one of those tight ends for me. He's my boy. He's on my team, but at the same time, he's such an up and down kind of guy that it's just
Yeah, he's touchdown dependent. So if you get the touchdown, you're happy. If not,
Absolutely.
You're kind of miserable.
But the league standings so far, I am in 4th place with a 4-3 record, and the thing that is slowly making me a little bit nervous is the Dingo Babies. Where did you start this season as?
0-4.
He started 0-4, and he is now 3-4 in a playoff spot. And the thing I know about this man is you get him in the playoffs, you got to watch out because his team is somehow built for playoff runs, and it scares me.
It's the clutch factor, you know?
I've wanted to see this man lose because he wins at everything. And to see him just creeping back in is just, it's kind of sad. Because I don't wish failure on anybody, or at least most people.
You wish it on me,
But
and I respect it.
In fantasy football, I want you to lose. Because I am sick and tired of seeing you go, I won again. Whoops, yeah, I didn't know.
Sick of me taking all your money.
Yeah, I am. I kind of want to win one. I want to win at least one.
You'll get there one day, kid.
Hopefully. So, Logan, is there anything else that you would give any advice to the listeners of maybe this first episode?
I mean, it's week 8, so teams are probably starting to think about quitting. I would say just keep with it. Like, if you're down, other teams in your league are going to start quitting. So there's going to be some free wins there. Just keep pushing. If you sneak in the playoffs, I think last year, like, I won our league. I think I finished in the last playoff spot.
Did you finish the last playoff spot?
I was in the last or the second last one. Like, I barely snuck in.
Oh, yeah,
but
that's
once
right.
you're in, you're in. So just keep pushing, keep working the waiver wire, and as long as you sneak in, you got a shot.
Absolutely. I would definitely say the same as Logue. Like, I don't like quitting in general, especially when it comes to fantasy football. I overreact. And Logan knows this better than anybody.
Yes.
I overreact way too much to fantasy football.
On a play-to-play basis.
I will quit on my team in 5 minutes, or I will just be completely on a high with my team. It will be very up and down if you're with me on a fantasy Sunday. But like you said, if you're in it, don't quit. If you're within a couple, maybe a game or two, kind of wait and see, because as you said, there's definitely probably other teams worse off than you maybe that are starting to sell, that are gonna, you might be able to get those players in deals, or you might be able to beat those teams. So just keep on going with it, because you never know. You could have a good stretch of 3 weeks. Like look at Logan over here. He went 0-4. He didn't quit on it. Now he's in a playoff spot and he's looking really good. So anything, and once you get into the fantasy playoffs, don't worry about those teams that put up stupid numbers every week, because you can have a week where you put up 90 points and you put up 140. You just never know.
It takes one bad week and that team's done. So just
I
keep
know this
pushing.
better than anybody, because I think it was 2 years ago. I started 10-0 in our fantasy league, putting up about 120 points a week, and this was in standard. So there's no PPR, and I was crushing it. I finished the season 11-2. I lose in the first round. And it didn't matter what my team did before that. So just take it with a grain of salt.
Yep, just as long as you're in it, you got a shot.
All right, so that is going to be it for week 1 of the Ryan and Log Fantasy Show. As of right now, we will try to maybe upload a video once or twice a week, depending on our availability, because, you know, we're both pretty busy guys because we work all the time. But other than that, thank you for listening. If you are listening, please like and subscribe the video, and we will post a new video as soon as we can. Good luck on your fantasy weeks, and everybody, stay classy.
Stay classy.